In this month's podcast, in honor of the Reagan Library and Museum's new exhibition entitled Cowboy, History in Hollywood, we present America's favorite singing cowboy, Gene Autry. Gene Autry is the only entertainer to have 5 stars on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, one each for radio, records, film, television, and live theatrical performance, including rodeo. In his ability to transcend media and in the sheer scope of his output, Gene Autry was unsurpassed as a popular image maker of the American West. Gene Autry was born Orvin Grover Autry on September 28, 1907, in Tioga, Texas, to parents Delbert Autry and Elnora Osment. As a young boy, Gene worked on his father's ranch while also attending school. Upon graduating high school in 1925, he left the family ranch and became a telegrapher for the St. Louis-San Francisco Railway, while also singing and playing guitar at local dances. By 1928, Gene was singing on Tulsa, Oklahoma's radio station KVOO and was known as Oklahoma's Yodeling Cowboy. By 1929, he had a recording deal with Columbia Records and had his first hit in 1932 with That Silver-Haired Daddy of Mine, a duet with Jimmy Long. Although he wrote and recorded hundreds of songs, becoming known as the most successful singing cowboy, he's most often remembered for his association with Christmas music, having debuted the seasonal standards Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, and Here Comes Santa Claus. From this time through the early 1950s, Gene appeared in 93 movies and starred in 91 episodes of his television series, The Gene Autry Show. Gene Autry was an executive producer of the TV series Death Valley Days, of which Ronald Reagan appeared in 21 episodes. It was perhaps during this time that the two became friends. Gene Autry's movies, radio dramas, television episodes, and comic books always had storylines with Gene Autry doing the right thing or helping folks make the right choices in tough situations. In the late 1940s, a formal code of ethics emerged and was known by his fans as Gene Autry's Cowboy Code, or the Cowboy Commandments. Like Ronald Reagan, Gene Autry joined the military when, in 1942, he joined the Army Air Corps and became Sergeant Gene Autry. During the war, he ferried fuel, ammunition, and arms in the China-India-Burma Theater of War and flew over the Himalayas, a hazardous air route known as the Hump. When the war ended, he was reassigned to Special Services, where he toured with a USO troop in the South Pacific before resuming his movie career in 1946. As the years went on, Gene Autry proved himself to be a very successful businessman. He owned television and radio stations on the West Coast and was the original owner of the Angels Major League Baseball team in Anaheim, California, which he purchased in December 1960. Ronald Reagan and Gene Autry remained friends throughout their life. In March of 1983, Gene presented the president with one of his recorded albums, inscribing on it, "To Pres Ron Reagan, a great president and a fine man, Gene Autry." And just a week or so later, President Reagan spoke at the opening of the American Cowboy exhibit at the Library of Congress, noting his friend in his remarks.
Well, I think America's heart is on display here. This exhibit explores both the reality and the myth of the American West, and both are important. Here are more than the bits and pieces of a rough and gritty life, but the tangible remnants of a national legend. Among the horsehair lassos and Remington sculptures and Gene Autry songs is a part of our national identity.
Other items in our archives include this cardboard cutout from a Gene Autry vintage paper doll set, a 1953 Western Movie Hits magazine which features Gene Autry on the cover and has an article about Ronald Reagan and his film Law and Order on the inside, and this Christmas tree ornament from the Gene Autry Western Heritage Museum, which was found in President Reagan's personal desk at his residence in Bel Air, California, following his death. Among the many hundreds of honors and awards Gene Autry has received were his induction into the Country Music Hall of Fame, the American Academy of Achievement Award, the Los Angeles Area Governor's Emmy from the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences, and the Board of Directors Lifetime Achievement Award from the International Achievement in Arts Foundation. He was also inducted into the Cowboy National Hall of Fame in 1972, an honor that President Reagan received in 1989. During President Reagan's induction, he said, "It was one thing to come up here for playing a cowboy, it's another thing to be accepted as one." Gene Autry died at his home in Studio City, California on October 2nd, 1998. He was 91 years old.